Conservatism is not a single unified ideology. Rather, it is a family of traditions united by a general concern for order, continuity, authority, and social stability, but deeply divided over how these goals should be achieved. Across time and place, conservatism has taken markedly different forms, ranging from authoritarian resistance to democracy, to liberal constitutionalism, to welfare-oriented state intervention. To understand conservatism properly, it is essential to distinguish among its major variants, particularly authoritarian, continental conservatism, liberal, Anglo-American conservatism, paternalist conservatism, and neoconservatism. Each reflects a different response to modernity, democracy, and social change. 1. Authoritarian, continental conservatism, rejection of Enlightenment and liberal democracy. Authoritarian, or continental, conservatism emerged primarily in continental Europe as a reaction against the Enlightenment and the French Revolution. It rejects the Enlightenment's emphasis on reason, individual autonomy, and universal rights, viewing these ideas as destabilizing abstractions that undermine social order. From this perspective, liberal democracy is not a moral achievement, but a dangerous experiment, one that dissolves hierarchy, weakens authority, and encourages mass politics. Defense of hierarchy, tradition, and authority. Authoritarian conservatives argue that societies are organically hierarchical, not egalitarian. Authority is justified by tradition, religion, and historical continuity rather than consent or rational design. Key assumptions include social inequality is natural and necessary, authority precedes liberty, obedience and discipline are virtues, political legitimacy is rooted in history, not popular sovereignty. Rather than limiting power through constitutions, authoritarian conservatism often views strong, centralized authority as essential for social cohesion. Support for autocratic and counter-revolutionary regimes. Historically, authoritarian conservatives have supported or justified autocratic regimes that promise order and national unity, especially during periods of social upheaval. They are often counter-revolutionary, seeking to reverse or suppress revolutionary movements rather than reform institutions incrementally. Historical links and conceptual proximity. This tradition has historical links to regimes and movements such as Bonapartism, centralized authority legitimized through plebiscites and charismatic leadership. Peronism, authoritarian populism combining mass mobilization with hierarchical control. Authoritarian conservatism is conceptually proximate to fascism, particularly in its rejection of liberalism and emphasis on authority and unity. However, the two are not identical. Fascism is revolutionary, mass mobilizing, and ideologically totalizing, whereas authoritarian conservatism is typically restorative, seeking to preserve or revive traditional elites and institutions rather than create a new political order. 2. Liberal, Anglo-American conservatism, empiricist and evolutionary approach. Liberal or Anglo-American conservatism developed in Britain and later the United States. Unlike its continental counterpart, it accepts liberal institutions while rejecting radical social engineering. This tradition is deeply empiricist and evolutionary, viewing society as the product of historical experience rather than abstract design. Political wisdom is accumulated over time, embedded in customs, practices, and institutions. Anti-rationalism and skepticism toward abstraction. A defining feature of Anglo-American conservatism is anti-rationalism, not a rejection of reason itself, but skepticism toward the belief that society can be redesigned according to universal theories. Abstract ideals such as perfect equality or pure reason, conservatives argue, ignore human complexity and social fragility. Attempts to reconstruct society from first principles often lead to instability or tyranny. Key thinker, Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke is the foundational thinker of this tradition. In his critique of the French Revolution, Burke argued that liberty must be inherited and cultivated, not imposed through radical rupture. For Burke, tradition embodies practical wisdom, institutions evolve organically, sudden change destroys social trust. Importantly, Burke was not anti-liberal. He supported constitutionalism, civil liberties, and representative government, but insisted they be grounded in historical continuity. Core commitments liberal conservatism supports: parliamentary government, market economy, limited government, rule of law. At the same time, it opposes radical social reconstruction, whether from revolutionary left-wing movements or utopian rationalists. This tradition accepts tradition and liberal institutions together, viewing them as mutually reinforcing rather than contradictory. 3. Paternalist conservatism and neoconservatism, state intervention to preserve social order. Paternalist conservatism departs from strict laissez-faire principles by accepting state intervention, not to promote equality, but to preserve social stability and hierarchy. The state is seen as a guardian, acting much like a father within the family, intervening when necessary to prevent disorder, dependency, or radicalization. One nation conservatism. This approach is often described as one nation conservatism, emphasizing national unity across class lines. Conservatives adopting this view feared that unchecked capitalism and inequality would fracture society into hostile camps. Historical examples. Key historical expressions include Benjamin Disraeli, who warned of Britain becoming two nations, rich and poor, post-World War II welfare conservatism, where conservative parties accepted social insurance, public housing, and labor protections. These policies were not egalitarian in intent. Rather, they sought to defuse class conflict and maintain loyalty to existing institutions. Goals and distinctive logic. Paternalist conservatism aims to prevent class conflict, preserve hierarchy and authority, avoid radicalization of lower classes, maintain national cohesion. Crucially, this distinguishes it from liberal egalitarianism. While modern liberals pursue social justice to enhance individual autonomy, paternalist conservatives intervene to stabilize hierarchy, not dismantle it. Conclusion: conservatism as ordered pluralism. Conservatism is best understood not as opposition to change per se, but as a concern with how change occurs and who controls it. Across its variants, authoritarian conservatism prioritizes authority over liberty. Liberal conservatism balances tradition with constitutional freedom. Paternalist conservatism uses the state to manage social risk. Together, these traditions reveal conservatism as a complex response to modernity, one that continually negotiates between order, liberty, and continuity rather than choosing one alone.